Alright guys, hope you're all doing well, hope you're all keeping it safe. So today I wanted to make a different kind of video, less scripted, as normally all my videos are scripted. This one's a little bit more informal. And I wanted to kind of make this one really as soon as possible because I'll just say it straight off the bat, I think TU10.1 is very good for loot. And I think we, with the Division 2, we're kind of in this rut where it feels like almost every week we're giving negative feedback. And there's nothing wrong with negative feedback, as long as it's constructive, of course. And I think that's just part of humanity, essentially. You know, when I used to work in a gym, we had this like little box, and basically you could put feedback in it. Now, pretty much all the feedback we got in it was negative. Not because, you know, the whole place was bad, because it actually wasn't. It's just that people generally like to give negative feedback rather than positive feedback, because positive feedback is kind of seen as, well, that's your job, so you should just do that. And I think that's where we're at with the Division 2. You know, some of the changes we get, they are positive, but, you know, on the counter it is, well, shouldn't have that been there always? But the way I see it is that negative feedback is fine, and giving constructive criticism is fine. You know, I make videos being negative and giving constructive feedback all the time, giving solutions as well. And if you go onto my Twitter page, you'll see me tweet at the devs with the same sort of thing. But ultimately, I also think there needs to be some kind of a balance where if there is something positive, then we also need to give positive feedback, because it's just nice. But also it means that the devs as well, they can see what we do like as a community. And I think now is one of those times, which is why I wanted to make this video. TU10.1 brought some changes to loot that I think were very, very needed. Now, with a lot of things when it comes to these kind of updates, you see it on paper, and it's not until you actually go in and start playing the game that you can really give your feedback, because on paper a lot of stuff looks good until you go in and test it out and actually doesn't feel quite right. Well, you know, I can safely say without a shadow of a doubt that loot in TU10.1, from someone who plays on Heroic, by the way, so you may have maybe a different experience if you're not on that level, feels way better. Way, way better. Now, I've only played a little bit. I did 2 Heroic control points, and then I kind of free roamed the world. I played for a couple of hours, but even from that, I could already see the huge difference in terms of the loot quality. And you're going to see it in this video with the footage. You'll see me pick up some god rolls. You'll see me pick up some really high stats, some high attribute pieces of gear. Pieces of gear honestly guys, I never saw before. Before, what I would normally get is either something that had a fairly high stat, and then one of the attributes would be kind of 50% and one of them would be about 60%. Or I might get one max rolled attribute, or on the very rare occasion I get a max rolled piece of gear. But in the 2 runs that I did on control points since TU10.1, I got a few pieces which had like almost max rolls on all the attributes. I had a couple of pieces which were max rolls, which was great. And then average wise, there was gear that dropped between kind of 65 to 80, 85%, which again is fine, because that's exactly what the devs wanted to do with this, and I'm okay with that. As long as, like I said before, as long as the minimum is quite high, especially on Heroic content, and then you've got a good chance of getting, or a better chance than before of getting max rolled or certainly high attribute stuff from Heroic content, then I'm good with that. And from what I've seen so far, it is exactly that. Now, if you're playing on something like Challenging, you may not have seen much of a change, because there wasn't a huge change to Challenging from what the notes said. You're really going to feel that in Heroic and certainly Legendary difficulty. And I can also say as well, having opened a couple of caches as well, they're also great. They have been great, because obviously caches now are going to be scaling with Heroic. That's for, what is it for? Dark Zone caches, as well as field proficiency caches, and I think other caches as well fall into that category. When it comes to clan caches, then that's going to be Legendary type loot, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I think that's a good incentive to start contributing towards a clan if you want to get that Legendary gear, and then you can use that to play on Legendary. So yeah, great news so far. Now, of course, that's not the end. Rainbow loot, as you'll see in this video, is still very much prevalent. I know that's something the devs are going to be working on with Tile Update 11. They've said before that when it comes to rainbow loot, it's just RNG, right? It's just, you know, it just drops as is. It doesn't feel like that when you're playing as a player, but that's just the way it is. And there was no real way of them fixing it, not fixing it, but having any hand in that. But they are making changes to that process, which will allow them to go in and make changes to the way that stuff drops and the way it's weighted. And we don't know quite yet what they're going to do with that. I'm hoping they find a happy medium where we still have RNG, because we still very much need RNG in a looter shooter based game, right? So it's not just going to be a case that when TU11 comes out, they make a change where you can just pick up any piece of gear, you can recal it to whatever you want, and you can just have the best gear already straight away. And I don't think anyone wants that. But there needs to be a happy medium between it not feeling like all of the loot is just rainbow loot. And that goes a long way towards maybe some talents that shouldn't be on certain weapons, maybe like Ranger on a double barrel sawn off, for example, or talents that on pieces of gear that just don't make sense, or even major attributes on certain pieces of branded gear that don't quite fit what that branded piece of gear is. So all of that stuff outside of what's been done with TU10.1 is just going to elevate the experience with loot. And I can't wait for the day that I can sit here and say, guys, loot is the best it could be. Because at the moment, it is the best it has been. There's no doubt about it. The loot right now is the best it has been since the Division 2 launched. But I'm not going to sit here and just say it's all sorted now, because that's just not the case. And there's still stuff to be done. But it is way better. If you left the game because you felt that loot was just not rewarding enough, I really think you might want to consider coming back for this update, because I think it is. Now, what I will say is that there's an argument that it's a little bit too late, and I can see that argument. And there's also an argument that, well, it shouldn't have been this way to begin with. And again, I can see both sides of the argument. The little too late argument is something that I can certainly see, and the reason I say that is because most people now who are playing this game have probably played it quite a lot. And I think most people will be at a stage with their gear and their loot and stuff where they really only need that kind of 0.1% chance of piece of gear to finish what they have, right? And this update isn't going to do that for them, because that's not what it's for. So whilst I can sit here and I can appreciate, and I'm sure everyone can, they can appreciate the change that's been made, right? I can go into a control point and I can see that gear is dropping way better than before, and I'm happy. I'm making this video because I'm happy, because I think that's exactly what should happen. But am I going to go into the game and start just picking up all the gear because it's better than what I have? Probably not, because I've already got most of the gear that I need, right? And most of you guys will already. So this really isn't going to have a huge impact on people's gear and builds until year 3, if we have a power increase or a level increase. And I think we will. I think year 3 we're probably going to get a level increase to 50. It's probably going to be paid like year 2. And I'm okay with that personally myself. I know a lot of you guys might not be, but for me, at least as a player, I really enjoy the leveling experience more than I do the end game experience. For Destiny, for example, they do it all of the time, and I normally play the powering level. I normally play the powering up part, and then when it gets to end game, I kind of don't play it as much. I'm not so much into the min-max stuff as I am in just leveling up and getting better stuff and that sort of thing. So I'm okay with that process personally. But I think that's where it's going to have the biggest impact, where you are going to be getting better gear all of the time. And when this kind of process and this kind of idea comes into that, where you're getting this much better gear, that's where it's going to feel really, really rewarding. That's not to say that this update isn't going to get you better gear, because it will, because max rolls appear to be coming more often, and higher attribute gear appears to be dropping more often. So you are going to get stuff better for what you want. It might not feel as much as what you'd probably like, and that's just because most of us are probably already at that stage where we don't need a whole lot more to make those pieces of gear, unless you're one of those people who are constantly making builds. So you're constantly looking for a piece of gear and you need those high attributes. Of course, you're going to love it. I'm sure about that. But I don't think this is really going to have a huge impact until year 3. But overall, I think the changes are great. And I'm really happy about them. Really, really happy about it. Enough to just make this video with no script involved, just to kind of just put it out there and say to you guys, look, this is great. This is really great. If any of you guys, by the way, have experienced something different to me, please let me know. Because, like I said, I haven't played a whole lot. I've only played a couple of hours, so maybe it's just my RNG. Although that would be very unlikely, because my RNG sucks. Guys, question actually. How many of you have actually got max roll mods? I've got one max roll mod, and it was a purple. I think it was repair skills mod. I've never got one high-end mod. And I will just quickly say they need to look at mods and the frequency in which they drop, and also the frequency in which people are getting kind of the max stuff. Because unless I'm the most unlucky Division 2 player there is, then there needs to be some changes to those. And I think they need to apply what currently exists to loot in terms of quality to maybe mods, because I think it might be a separate system. It certainly feels like it. And then also apply that to weapons if it doesn't already as well. But, you know, more of that in the next video. Ultimately, this is a positive one. I'm really happy with these changes. Of course, I could talk about all the other changes with TU10.1, but to be honest, guys, I've barely looked at all the other changes, at least in-game, and I've really only focused on the loot, because for me, that's what's going to keep me playing for the most part. And yeah, I'm happy about it. Really, really happy about it. Devs, please, let's get that content going. Let's get some content on the go, because I think if we can get some content, then I think we're looking pretty good at the moment. I think if they can sort out the rainbow a little bit, they can find that happy medium, they can get some content on the go, I think we're looking good. And certainly in terms of PvE, for any of you guys playing PvP, I get it, right? But ultimately, I'm not focused on PvP for the Division anymore. I think that's ran its course. So, purely on a PvE kind of video here, yeah, I think we're looking good in terms of loot. And I think a lot of people will be happy with this update. A lot of people will be excited for content when they can start using that loot and they can start getting stuff dropped better. Because, yeah, this has been a long time coming. We are 18 months into the game about, so it's certainly a long time coming. It might be a little bit too late, but I think if they do have, like I said, I think if they have a year free and they have a lot of people playing and stuff, I think people are really going to start to see the impact of these changes. And for us, mainly as people who are playing a lot at the moment, I think the biggest impact we're going to see is when they start to make changes with the rainbow loot and what they do about that. Let's hope they find the medium that we all want, where we still want RNG, but we don't want it quite as brutal as it feels right now. And you'll see in this video with some of the stuff, it was quite brutal in terms of rainbow loot. I think the max rolls that I got were pretty much rainbow, and that's a bit frustrating. But quality-wise, yeah, I think we're there. And I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy I can make a positive video. What I will just say before we close out, guys, is I think most of us have been talking about increasing the minimum on loot, certainly for heroic and challenging as well. And also increasing the amount, the possibility of getting max rolls and the possibility of getting higher attribute rolls for some time. So it's finally got it. And I'm happy about that. Finally there, we got there. I'm happy about that. Please don't start working on the Division 3 when the Division 2, in terms of loot, is getting there. And it's following a similar process to how the Division 1 went, where towards the end of the game, certainly 1.8 and 1.7 and stuff, the game felt great. And I feel like we might get there with a Division 2. Probably next year, though, at this point. But the loot's got there, and I'm really happy about that. Thanks for watching, guys. Until the next one, epic out.